aka Patters. Welcome back to another scary episode of the 31 Days of Dread, the 2024 edition. I got a question. Do you out there, I'm talking to you, do you believe in legacy? Do you believe that there should be things to uphold? Truth, justice, and the American way. Sacred cows. Something that belongs in the museum as an idol, never to be touched. Just like the Mona Lisa is in the Louvre, right? The Mona Lisa, she's behind glass. You can only see her at specific times. There's lines, there's ropes, there's guards, there's all of these things just to see the Mona Lisa. But you can do it, right? But the Mona Lisa, sacred cow, don't F with it. The Exorcist as a horror franchise is that. The 2023 film, directed by David Gordon Green, that acts as a direct link to The Exorcist, to the original Exorcist the Believer. We're talking about that today. And if you haven't seen the length of this episode, I think you know why it's going to be a short one. Let's go. It's October, and it's time for the 31 Days of Dread. This is where you get one horror movie a day for the entire month of October. That's how much we love horror. That's how much we love Halloween on the Film Buff podcast. And here's the crazy thing. This is the longest running horror event in all of podcasting. So get ready. We're going to rock and roll. We're going to scare our socks off. And yes, we're going to be grabbing some candy, maybe some cereal. Let's go. So here we go, aka Patters. Imagine a spiritual sequel, a purposeful sequel, a purposeful extension. So we have the original Exorcist, and then Exorcist Beliver, 2023. Partially through this movie, we get introduced to the mother from the original movies in this movie. She's written a book. We see her on YouTube, the father who's trying to figure out what is happening with his daughter. He finds this woman on YouTube. It's clearly like an 80s talk show, like Phil Donahue type setting. But it's a mother talking about exorcism, like her daughter being possessed. So this guy seeks her out, and all of a sudden, we have a direct link to the original Exorcist. And then the mother, she gets stabbed in the eyeballs. She gets stabbed. And, she gets bandaged up, and she's in her bed, and she's like, you can't give up. You can't give up. Like, all this stuff. And at that point, I'm like, I'm done with this movie. I can't believe we just did this to the sacred cow. This character should never go out this way. This is a problem we sometimes get with legacy movies. The Exorcist period, everything that came outside of the original movie, it never hits. Now, as the years have marched on, people have signed up for Heretic, The Exorcist 2, The Heretic, Exorcist 3. People have latched on to those movies. Very similar, like Psycho 2 is almost like put 1-to-1 with Psycho 1 at this point. Originally, not so much. I'm not making the comparison that one day people will find and discover this movie. We talk about that a lot on this podcast. I'm merely illustrating the sequels to The Exorcist, the spin-offs, the reboots, because technically this movie is a reboot of the franchise. It's complicated. It's hard to nail. The nature of the beast is written on the walls. Every single exorcism movie is the same. Now, we have a lot of, like, the exorcism of Emily Ross, right? I mean, we have nuance within the genre, but so much of it is this movie. The Deliverance that we talked about on 31 Days of Dread already. The Deliverance is that formula, but the way how we set up that family that culture, that lifestyle, the hurt and the pain of that family, we're all in by the time we get into the funny exorcism stuff, because it is funny. But I couldn't continue watching this movie. I don't understand how they could pull the trigger. It's Olivia O'Neill, right? That's our Reagan O'Neill. That's the mother-daughter combo from the original movie. Olivia is just one of those characters that is a part of American horror. And you put this character out this way. And partially why I reserved all judgment for this movie is I believe that in the aggregate, Blumhouse makes so many good calls. I think the people that are harsh on Blumhouse movies, they come in a little bit too heavy. So it's Blumhouse and it's David Gordon Green. This is our director, David Gordon Green. I kind of want to say he hasn't really made a bad movie until now. He started directing in 2000. He's been at it for 23 years. Meg Lohorn, Joe, that we spoke about, the Nicolas Cage Joe. I'm not sure. Did we talk about Joe? I think we spoke about Joe. Joe's fantastic in 2013. But then he makes this Halloween trilogy that, in my opinion, is up there with all the trilogies. Halloween, Halloween Kills, Halloween Ends. AKAPAD, and I know I'm on the hill, but I'll die on this hill. It's one of the greatest horror trilogies of all time, modern day. Did it enrage a lot of people? Did it confuse a lot of people? I would say, did a lot of people approach Michael Myers the same way how I'm approaching our mother and daughter combo from the first movie? Right? I would say yes. The O'Neills. Some people, the Rob Zombie Halloween, I think this is a great comparison. The Rob Zombie Halloween, the new Halloweens, right? People will always just go back. You cannot do this to Michael Myers. You cannot do this to Michael Myers. All the early Halloween sequels, you cannot do this to Michael Myers. You cannot do this to Michael Myers. You have to get Michael Myers right. But I'm putting that on Olivia O'Neill just as a character, because it was great way to introduce her, great way to add relevance, great way to connect it to the first movie. And I thought he was just working his magic. Oh, by the way, he did Pineapple Express, which I adore. Pineapple. I still watch the movie a lot. So I hate to say it, my AKAPADers. Let's just give this movie a pass. This movie got trashed. I thought the imagery, like the poster of the girl like in the church being possessed, the imagery of the two girls being possessed, I'm like, this is, people, I thought everyone was too harsh on this movie. I sit there and this is one of the few times I get it. I get the visceral hatred and reaction to this movie. I think it's an absolute mess. Do not waste your time. I cannot recommend this movie. Alright guys, 31 Days of Dread. I guess we have ourselves a scary pass. Pun intended. Let's go. AKAPADers, thank you for joining me for another episode of the 31 Days of Dread. We have been dedicated to horror for a long time on this feed, on this podcast. If you guys want to know more about everything we do here, go to akapad.com. From there, you can navigate to the 31 Days of Dread. We have a dedicated landing page that goes through all the years of the 31 Days of Dread. And we also have a directory that jumps you to any movie that we've done. So you can just look up the movie by name. You can go to the directory. It's all alphabetical. And you can just explore. And that's the intent. And that's why we're so into the 31 Days of Dread, because no one's No one's done this. No one has put this much time, this much thought and effort into American horror and international horror, and we love it. Horror is the future of American cinema. Horror right now is holding up American cinema, and I'm so thankful for it. So I'm hoping that you can extend yourself, explore, and continue the conversation. AKAPAD.com. Thanks, guys.